Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. We will be going over the book of Matthew, chapter 15, verses 21 through 28, where the main topic is the faith of a Canaanite woman, where this woman is pleading for healing of her daughter, and she is unable to find healing from physical or for what she can see in the naked eye. And we will be going over how powerful this passage is, where boundaries are broken, culture is broken, because her faith is what commended her daughter's healing, where Jesus praises her with, "Woman, you have great faith." Because even if things don't look right, there is a way. Even if there's difficulty in your life, there is a way. And holding that value to your truest self is what will get you further in life. And I feel like this is a powerful passage and a beautiful message. And it really depends on where your faith lies. But I feel like this verse and this book itself has so much to offer. And I definitely believe that where there's a will, there's a way. And, faith beyond boundaries. That's basically the theme of this passage. So let's get into it. All right, friends. So as mentioned, we're going to further elaborate on the faith of a woman in the scripture of Matthew 15, verses 21 through 28. The story of a faith of a Canaanite woman is a powerful reading that highlights the themes of faith, persistence, and humility. This passage definitely invites believers and even non-believers to reflect on the strength and depth of their own faith, to seek God or what's a higher power who has persistence, humility, and trusting in that ability to meet our needs. And it's easier said than done, but sometimes things happen for a reason, and I believe in that. Sometimes doors do close for others to open, and I truly believe that this passage really demonstrates what faith beyond boundaries really is, and how powerful the persistence of prayer withholds, and becoming having that humility and trust in something that is not seen but definitely felt. And maybe you can't physically see the works at the moment, but you will definitely see it at the end. And I believe that this is such a beautiful passage to reflect on.
So on the slide, we go over the 4 main units that we did this semester and how they're found in our Bible verse. I'm going to start with courageous vulnerability, and for that one, we connected it in a way that the woman exposes her heart, continues to persist despite rejection, and humbly surrenders herself to Jesus' mercy. This just shows that despite her drawback, she was able to keep going and persist. When it comes to collaboration, we have that although Jesus initially seems to be testing her, the woman's faith and persistence invites Jesus to respond with mercy and healing. She displays trust in his power. So that trust that she has in him is this form of collaboration as she is working with him. Then with leadership, it's not always about authority, but about how we respond to others, persevere through challenges, and remain open to learning and growing in our understanding of God's will for our lives. When it comes to leadership, a big part of it is having an open mindset, so that learning and growing aspect. And then uncommon compassion. Jesus breaks cultural and social barriers, is persistent and humble, and always seeks to heal and restore, but not just physically, but also spiritually. So with that, we always know that obviously Jesus is full of uncommon compassion, and he is always willing to heal and restore. And we see that connected to our Bible verse.
All right, guys, off to the slide, which is titled, "Which is More Prominent?" So we're just going to go over the 4 main topics that has been discussed over lecture and throughout time, and how does that portray in each one for this passage. So to start off, we're going to go over with courageous vulnerability. I believe it's heavily focused, and you'll find it in verse 23, where the story shares where Jesus is silent. However, the woman is being tested by her faith. As we've heard in the past, the teacher is silent when giving the test, and I feel like this definitely portrays onto this. And I feel like courageous vulnerability is the most prominent because it's overlooked, but it's definitely found in it, and I feel like it's very heavy on this passage. For the second one, I believe uncommon compassion is where compassion sees the inherent worth of every person regardless of their background and extends by their mercy and grace to all who seek it. And I believe that this compassion really is demonstrated not only by the woman towards Jesus in this passage, but also how Jesus portrays his compassion for that woman. Even if he's silent, even through the journey, he is still there. So I feel like that will be the second most prominent in the story. Now, for the third most prominent would be collaboration. I place this as third just because God's grace extends to the collaboration of a Gentile woman demonstrating the kingdom of God is not only limited to one particular person or just one type of group of people, but is all who is open to experience that faith with Jesus, whoever is open enough to go and move forward with it. I place it as third because collaboration comes throughout the journey and it's not easily learned. And for the fourth most prominent would be leadership. Some people might think leadership should be first, but I think it's last just because leading goes throughout the passage. It's not prominent, it's fairly hidden because both Jesus and the Canaanite woman serve as examples of leadership and each other's faith, how she perceives him and how he perceives her. And I feel like it takes one to know one, and leading to leadership is not always easy if the journey is silent and faith over fear again. So I believe this is the best way to demonstrate of this passage of what's more prominent. Hi guys, this is Jordalis, and we're going to go over my 2 service standards that really help the passage and strengthening it. I believe in owning it and keep me safe are the 2 main service standards for this passage. It reflects on both Jesus and the Canaanite woman's journeys and how individually they both apply these standards by going through the journey of the unknown. And she owns that she's not perfect. She owns that she's probably not the best person to be asking because of her past and because of what she has gone through. But if you think about it, she's keeping herself safe and her daughter safe because she's relying her faith onto a higher power. And she knows eventually throughout time that only he can help. And so for him, for Jesus, I believe that he knows that he owns it, that he knows that he's giving her a time to test her patience and endurance, but he's also keeping her safe so she's not way too far from losing her faith and building that actually. So I believe these 2 main service standards applies for both individually, and I feel like it's very important that sometimes your spiritual journey outweighs your physical journey.
Hello, this is Megan. I'm going to be talking about my Bible connections to the service standards that we learned about. For mine, I have the story of the Canaanite woman reflects the heart of my philosophy of healthcare. Her courageous vulnerability and compassion inspire me to advocate for my patients and to create a safe, trusting space for healing. I think we learn a lot about patient-centered care, and I think it is important to be able to have that courageous vulnerability and compassion. That way you have that push and drive to advocate for your patients. Just as she spoke with faith and determination, I strive to provide patient-centered care rooted in compassion, honesty, and a commitment to doing what's right even when it's challenging. I think, as we know, there's a lot of challenges that we'll face in the healthcare world, but I think as long as we have that determination and that strive to provide our patients with the best care we possibly can, we will be able to break through those challenges and persevere despite the things we may run into. Moving on to guidance and encouragement, these are just some quotes that we have that connect our verse to the additional readings. When it comes to Rimmon, we have some pages quoted here specifically, and those basically just go over that it's not always about perfection, but about embracing every aspect of ourself, and I think that's really important to know when understanding these different connections. So for the story-shaped life, we have sometimes the story we're given isn't the one we would have written, but it becomes the one that transforms us. I think this is all about putting your faith in God and trusting the process, because there's a lot of things that we can't control, but as long as we have that courage and we have the openness to transform, I think that'll help us get through it. For homeless in Poland, these men with sharply lined faces and blurry old tattoos have set out to prove their seaworthiness and to prove that they have some value to society, even if society has largely written them off. This one's a lot about perseverance and having that strive to keep going despite what people are saying and doing to you. We have that it's similar to our Bible verse, where the woman, despite being rejected, continues to seek help for her daughter. Both show persistence and the desire for dignity in the face of being overlooked. Now moving on, we have raising a princess single-handedly. I've realized the ability to love is not in the object or the person you love, but in you. This insight reflects the Canaanite woman's deep faith and love in Matthew, showing that inner strength and persistence can overcome rejection and lead to healing. I think it's a lot about, again, like the ability to love is not in the object or the person you love, but in you. As long as you have that desire and that strength, I think that goes to show and shows how strong of a person you are, that can lead you to that healing process. Lastly, we have come be my light. If I ever become a saint, I will surely be one of darkness. I will continually be absent from heaven to light the light of those in darkness on earth. So for this one, we have that it connects to our verse, where the woman's faith, despite silence, brings healing, showing that faith can overcome feeling abandoned and reach God's grace. I think a lot of times we feel alone in the world, but as long as we remember that we have someone there watching us and guiding us, I think that brings a lot of comfort. And all of this is just about healing and having that trust, faith, and dignity, all of those good things that will get you through those hard times.
All right, guys, so the references are here in case if you're willing to learn more about some of the resources we used and how it reflects on the faith of a woman that's found in the Bible. Thank you for being here with us and listening to Megan and I's message. I hope everyone has a great time listening to us and learned something out of this. Thank you again.